Good evening, everybody. Welcome to chapter 3 of Masechtas Shekalim. Tonight's class is dedicated L'Zecher Nishmas Imi Moirasi Rivka Bas Harab Rab Shloimeh. We are discussing the half shekel that was donated in the temple times. We still have a remnant of this, and that is fulfilled in the on Tainus Esther before Mincha, and we give a half of a coin, a half of a currency of the local currency. So here in the United States of America, we give 3 coins, 3 half dollars, and we try to use ones that have silver in them to fulfill our obligation, because this reminds us more of the original one, which was a half a shekel in silver. Now, all of these donations were made. They were all collected, as we spoke about in the previous chapters, and they were brought to the treasury. Now, what happened once they got to the treasury? We had mentioned last week that they would take amounts from the treasury, and they would use these for public sacrifices. We didn't get into the specifics. We just gave a general term, public sacrifices. And what this accomplished is that all those that had contributed a half shekel towards this end, they had now bought somewhat of a stock in the public sacrifices. And so when the public sacrifices were being brought in the Beis HaMikdash, what happens is that each person has a little part of it, a little part in it. Okay, so now, the Mishnah, B'shleisha, Frokim Bashana, Termim Esalishka. 3 times a year, they would withdraw funds from the treasury chamber. Now, we already spoke about it. They would take out money, and these monies were used for the sacrifices and the offerings. And so everybody is going to have a share in this. Now, when did they do this? Before Pesach, halfway of into the month of Pesach, which means 30 days before Pesach, we start studying the laws of Pesach. So half the way between 30 days before and Pesach, that's when they would make a withdrawal of funds. Before Satzeres, 15 days before again, 30 days before they would start studying the laws, halfway they would make a withdrawal. And B'frei Satzeres and B'frei Chag, and the same thing is 15 days before the Chag, which is Chag. Chag is the Chag of Sukkot. They would also make a withdrawal. Now, these times that we just spoke about, V'hein Groneis L'maiser Behema. These are the set, designated times for the tithing of animals. Divrei Rabbi Akiva, these are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Now let me explain what exactly this means. According to the Torah, you have to give of the kosher animals, the sheep and lamb, you have to give meiser, 1/10 of Maaser, yeah, 10% of your livestock. And the Torah tells us that whichever one comes out 10, that's the one you are to give. You don't look for the nicest one, you don't look for the inferior one, you don't look for the medium one, and this is the way it's done. You take all of your animals and you put them into a pen, and you open up the gate very narrowly. You open up the gate, and you only allow one animal to come out at a time. And what happens is, the 10th animal, you have a stick with a die on it. You tap the 10th animal, and it becomes kadosh. It becomes holy. Now, according to the Torah law, you can use your animals, you can sell animals, you can slaughter animals all throughout the year without fulfilling your Meiser obligations of your animals. Then when it comes to the end of the year, by the end of the year you have to give the tithes on all of these animals. Now, you could avoid a lot of the tithes by simply selling animals or slaughtering the animals that you want. And they're not counted in this tithe obligation. Only the ones that are there at the end of the year. But the rabbis, fearing that people who, if they were left to their own devices, they would hold on to their animals till such a time that it was convenient for them to give the tithes of the animals, which would be at the end of the year, perhaps. Because why should I give tithes now? Well, let me give it at the end of the year, and whatever's left, then I'll give tithes then. It's like prepaying your tax. Who wants to prepay their taxes? Imagine you give tax only on what's left in your bank account at the end of the year. You think you're going to be prepaying your tax? You wouldn't. You would wait until the end, and then you'll pay the tax. Whatever's left over, you'll pay the tax of that. So the similar thing. So the rabbis were afraid that people would hoard all of these animals, and it would drive up the price of livestock in Yerushalayim, because people can hold on to their animals for a longer period of time. So what they did was, according to Rabbi Akiva, is they established 3 times a year where you can no longer sell or slaughter an animal unless you have given meiser, you've given tithes of your animals, of your kosher animals. And so therefore, what happens is people have to they have to give the tithes. They have an incentive to give the tithes, and so they get.
This wasn't in the Torah beforehand.
Well, the Torah tells us you have to give a tithes of your behemoth, of your kosher livestock, but not 3 times a year, not in the shalosh regalim. So again, to make sure that people were getting things out, were clearing out the pens and selling things, they would say, okay, if whatever's left by this and this time, you have to give meiser now. You can't do anything with it. So people would rush to clear out their pens and sell things. There would be a lot more on the market. Supply would go up because people would be clearing things out.
Why was the days so close together? I mean, you're taking a month apart, the 2 of these days.
Well, the reason is so that for shalosh regalim there would be more livestock available, and therefore the prices would go down. It's a very good question, and that's the answer. The answer is because it's designed for a specific purpose. Okay, so these 3 times are, according to Rabbi Akiva, 15 days before each of these chagim are the time for the lishka, where the trumas halishka, when they would make a withdrawal from all of these coins. And he says that the time for giving meiser of behema is at the same time. Ben Azai says, he looks at it a little bit differently. Be'esrim v'tisha ba'adar. He says on the 29th day of Adar. Now, at face value, it seems to be the same amount of time, 15 days before the Chag. However, in those days, sometimes you had a 30th day of Adar because they were sanctifying the moon by witnesses. So sometimes you had 29 days of Adar, sometimes you had 30 days of Adar. So there wasn't always the 29th of Adar. But according to Rabbi Akiva, it was always 15 days before. But sometimes it was the 29th and sometimes it was the 30th. So Ben Azai says it's the 29th of Adar. That's when they would make a withdrawal. Be'echad b'Sivan, on the first day of Sivan, ve'esrim v'tisha b'Av, and on the 29th day of the month of Av. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shimon say they give different days. Be'echad b'Nisan, the first of Nisan. Be'echad b'Sivan, on the first of Sivan. Be'esrim v'tisha b'Elul, and on the 29th day of Elul. Now, mipnei ma omru be'esrim v'tisha b'Elul, lo yomru be'echad b'Tishri. The other 2, according to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shimon, are the first of the month. Why is this one on the 29th day of the month? Because the first day of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. And it is prohibited to give meiser on Yom Tov. The Fichach, therefore, higdimuhu la'esrim v'tisha b'Elul. Therefore, they advanced it to the 29th day of Elul. Okay, we're going to further discuss exactly the process of these withdrawals from the temple treasury. of these half shekel coins. B'sholish kupis shel sholish sin. They would have 3 baskets. Each of them had 3 sa'ah, as a measurement on them. And they would go into the treasury and remove 3 baskets of these coins. Now, v'kosav behem, and it was written upon them, Aleph, Beis, Gimel. On each basket was written Aleph on one, Beis on the second, and Gimel on the third. Rabbi Yishmael disagrees with this, and he says Yevonis kosav behem. It was actually written in Greek, Alpha, Beta, Gamla, A, B, and C, or A, B, and G more.
And what's the chiluk?
What's the chiluk? So now, where would this come from? So, actually very interesting. I looked this up. Now, if you go back to Parshas Noach in the Torah, there was a story where Noach became drunk after the Mabul. He became intoxicated. He became drunk. He uncovered himself in the tent, and his son Chum either castrated him or sodomized him, and went out and told his brothers about it. Now, Shem and Yafes went in with a blanket backwards, and they covered him over. When he woke and he found out what happened, so he cursed Chum, but he blessed Shem and Yafes. And what does he say? And what is the blessing of Yafes? Yafta likim liyafes, may Hashem extend Yafes, the Yishkin ba'ali Shem, and he shall dwell in the house of Shem. V'hi Canaan, Eved Lomei, and Canaan will be his servant. Now, according to this, according to Rabbi Yishmael, the Yefes that was enlarged included Greece. And so, the Greeks, and the Greek language, Yevonis, is an offshoot of Yefes. So, a fulfillment of this prophecy and blessing of Noach, that Yefes shall dwell in the house of Shem. What is the house of Shem? Not Shem like Shame, but Shem, Sema, Shem and Aver. The descendants of Shem are the Yidden, who built which house? The house of Hashem, the house of God. And so in what capacity did Yefes live in the house of Shem is with these represented by their letters being on the Lishka.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So obviously what Noach bestowed upon Yefes and Shem had much merit to it. And yet, why, when we learn Chumash, we go and we say, Noach is tzaddik, b'dorasav. So he was only considered tzaddik based on the people that, one version is only those people that were in his generation. He was the biggest tzaddik.
So your question is, how a blessing like that ends up happening? Listen, tzaddik yisoid olam. A tzaddik is the foundation of the world. Right. And Shmuel b'derei, Yiftach b'derei k'Shmuel b'derei. Yiftach in his generation was like Shmuel in his generation. Which means that we only have the tzaddikim of our time. This is what we have. And the tzaddik is the foundation of the world. He has the reins, he has the power. And so he gave a blessing and it came true. So whether if he had been in a different generation, he would have been considered a nobody, so what? But he was in his own generation. And being that he was in his generation, he's who sustains the world. He's the foundation of the world. And he has the reins. A king who has the key, king. He's not the greatest king, but he's a king. He's the one who makes the edicts of the time, and he holds the reins. And the same thing with Noach.
So I understand that. My question is, so then why is it specifically brought up that?
Again, maybe had he been in a time of Abraham, again, this is only one opinion. One opinion says he would have been even greater.
Right.
According to the other opinion, that's what you're talking about.
Right.
In another generation, he wouldn't have been giving the reins. He would not have been given the reins.
Okay.
And so here he's been given the reins of blessing, and so when he blesses, it comes true. Okay, Now, we continue. Ein ha'torim nichnas leivich fargoid chafus. You cannot go wearing a hemmed garment. V'leiv minol, not with shoes, v'leiv sandal, or with sandals. V'leiv tefillin, and not wearing tefillin on his head or his arm. V'leiv kameya, and not with a kameya. A kameya is an amulet. The person who's going into the chamber to get the money. So there's an agent of the treasury. We send them in to get the cash. Now, all of these things, as we're going to explain in a moment, why this is Shema Ya'ani. What we're concerned is perhaps he becomes poor after this. Subsequent to him going into the treasury, he becomes poor. And when he becomes poor, V'yemru, and he
stole from them.
The slanderers will say, "Ma'avino lishkani." Why do all of a sudden he goes into the chamber, and now he became poor? Why do you think he became poor?
He stole.
So they'll speak gossip because he stole money, and he's stealing money. So God paid him back and made him poor. He had an eye on money. God took his money from him. Oi. Alternatively, Shemei Yashir. Perhaps he'll become wealthy after that. The Emru, and they'll say, "Mitrumas alishkan heshir." How did he get, all of a sudden now he's wealthy? How did he get wealthy? He goes in, till now he hasn't been wealthy, he goes into the treasury. Next thing you know, he's got money. He's buying fancy things, and he buys a new house. Where do you think he got the money? He got it from the Lishka. He got it from the treasury. And so in order to forestall the bickering of these naysayer type people, we do not allow him to go into the treasury with these types of garments, because he can hide some coins under his tefillin, or he can hide them elsewhere, and so in his shoes, under his feet, and that's what we're concerned about. A person has to remove himself from all suspicion of people. Just like a person must remove all suspicion from God. Which means just like you know that you're concerned about God, you can't just say, well, God knows the truth, I didn't. Just like you make sure that God knows that you didn't steal anything, certainly not from his house, obviously. The same thing is you have to make sure that people also don't suspect you. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, "V'yisem nikiyim Hashem u'miyisrael," it says in relation to the Bnei Gad and the Bnei Ruvain. Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain, they had a lot of livestock, and they decided that they wanted to remain Transjordan and not move into Eretz Yisrael proper. They wanted to stay on the other side because they had a lot of livestock and there was a lot of pasture there for their livestock. And so they come to Moshe Rabbeinu, this is at the end of the 40 years, and they say, we'd like to stay here and let our brethren move into Eretz Yisrael. And Moshe becomes very upset with them. He says, this is what happened last time, 40 years ago. We ended up staying in the desert. What are you afraid to go into the land? And I said, no, we're not afraid. No, absolutely. Well, the Gadites, the Bnei Gad, were tremendous warriors. When they would kill somebody, they would kill them. They would slice them from the shoulder to the hip. Usually, when you're in a war and you want to kill somebody, you either stab them or you chop off their head.
Wasn't that Chushim? Wasn't the son?
That was from Dan. That was from Dan. But in any case, the Gadites were known as very, very powerful warriors. And just to, for effect, when they would kill, they would chop across the body because they can.
This was
Shevet Gad did that. And so in any case, they said, no, we're not afraid. And not only that, we're going to go as the pioneers in the front. We're going to go in the front line. And we'll settle the whole Eretz Yisrael, and then we'll come back and settle ourselves here. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
So Moshe says you gotta fulfill your promise. The Yisim Nekim Hashem Ami Yisrael, and when you do that, you will be cleared by Hashem and by the Yidden. Now the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu, why does he add in that you'll be cleared of any wrongdoing by Hashem and the Yidden. Why does he equate the two? Why does he put the two in? Be cleared by God. That's all. That's who cares what people think? Now, this pasuk in the Torah tells us that it's not who cares what people think. You need to be concerned with what people think, and you need to remove all suspicion from yourself, not just from God who knows the truth of everything, but from people who don't know the truth, people who are only suspicious, which is the Bnei Yisrael.
So this is where the Inyan of Maras Ayin has.
Maras Ayin is a little bit different. Maras Ayin is something else. Yeah, actually, Maras Ayin is a little bit. Actually, I'm sorry. Maras Ayin is a little bit of this, that you can't do something that will cause suspicion by another Yud. I'm sorry. Yes. I was thinking you meaning Ayin Hara, but now I realize you mean Maras Ayin. Maras Ayin means you can't do things that will cause arouse suspicion of other people to you. So, and Chazal established what those things are that you can't do that will arouse suspicion on you. For Omer, and it says elsewhere in Mishlei, Motzachin v'sechel tev, you have to find favor and good understanding, be'enei elikim, in the eyes of God, v'adam, in the eyes of people. And what this means to say is that you can't just act without regard to what people are going to think. You need to be concerned with what people will think and not do things that will arouse suspicion on your behavior.
So is this where benching picked up this pasuk from?
Well, that's from Mishnah. Yes, it's not from the Mishnah; it's from Mishnah. the Mishnah and benching get it from Mishnah. Gimmel shall be Rabbi Gamliel hayenichnas v'shikli ben etzba isav. So now, Beis Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi, and so him and his family, they were highborn, they were special people. And so what they would do is, we explained earlier that people would come and give their half shekels, and then there were people who would send them through shluchim, through emissaries, and so thousands and thousands and thousands of, hundreds of thousands and millions perhaps of shekalim would come in.
They would hold back.
Now, the members of Rabbi Gamaliel's household would wait until when? Until they were ready to lift up the withdrawal, and then and they would, right before he's the person who is going to make the withdrawal they would throw it right there on top. So their shkalim were actually the shkalim that came up. The vast majority of the shkalim that were sent to the Beis Hamikdash were not actually used for purchasing of the animals and the offerings for the tzibur. There was millions of dollars there, and they were at the bottom. And we're going to soon learn in the next Perek. We're going to learn about what they did with all these extras, what they do with the extra money. And so they would throw their coins before the person who was making the withdrawal. And the person who was making the withdrawal, he would pay attention, he would take theirs specifically, so their coins went into the baskets. The person who was making the withdrawal would not just simply withdraw. Being that he was doing this as a representative of all the Bnei Yisrael,
everyone would have a chelik. So
that everybody has a chelik in this. So he would say, Esraim, shall I make a withdrawal? And those standing there would say, Traim, withdraw. So what this does is it accentuates the idea that he is an agent of the people. He's not doing this on his own accord. He's doing this as a representative. And so everyone there they would say, withdraw. Torah Masarishena. So he would take out the first withdrawal. Okay? So now, how much did he take out? 3 baskets full, as we mentioned before, of 3 sa each. There's actually an opinion that says it was 9 sa each. In either case, whatever the size of the baskets, he would take out these baskets. He would fill up these baskets, and leather, is that? Yes. there was a leather like cover, like a challah cover type of thing, that he would cover the rest. Shnia. Then he would take out the second, and he would cover with this leather. Shlishis lo yaya mechape. And after the third one, he wouldn't cover the remaining coins there. Shema yishkach v'yisraim and adavar hatorim. Perhaps he would forget and then not take, and then take something, take from that which was already lifted from. What does this mean to say? Let's finish the Mishnah and then we'll understand. The first offering he took from, he withdrew. This was for in honor or in place of, for the people, the residents of Eretz Yisrael. Shniya, l'shum krachim hamukafin. The second one for the towns that were near Eretz Yisrael. Vashlishis l'shum Bavel l'shum Modai, and the third was for Bavel and Modai. L'shum Medinas Harachekis, l'shum Medinas Harachekis, and for far distant countries. So,
what period is this? Like, where people are living all over the place?
People wherever. People would send, people were living all over places, and they had sent in their...
So would it not arrive until the second...
Say again?
Would it not arrive until the second round of going around? So
there were 3 times in the year that they took these coins.
Right.
Now, even the ones that were en route were already considered as being withdrawn from these.
So
now,
like,
the point here was that we wanted to take from different areas each time, so that each section represented the people that they were supposed to represent, and we didn't double dip into one.
So was Ammon and Moab also part of that?
Ammon and Moab, everything beyond that was Medinas Haruchaikis.
Was the Jews living there?
What?
Well, what you said last time also that anyone could contribute.
Anyone could contribute from all over the world, regardless of where they were.
But not even Jews.
No, non-Jews were not allowed to contribute to the half shekel. No, that's what we said. Non-Jews were not allowed. We have 15 minutes left. I do not think we're going to go into the next chapter. Next chapter is 9 Mishnahs. So I don't want to start with that. I'm going to stop here, and then perhaps we'll do some, if anybody has any questions on Pesach, we'll address those. I'm going to shut the video in just a moment. Next week we are going to be off, and we'll pick it up, God willing, the week after Pesach. Please join us again at 8:30 after Pesach.